What's up, students? I'm Albert Inshanali, and welcome to another episode of CSEC Social Studies. I trust that you are well and are preparing adequately for examinations. Speaking of which, this episode we will be looking at past exam papers, specifically as it relates to paper 2 questions. Yes, you will have a paper 2 questions and you will be required to write and to justify and to describe and to discuss your responses. Now, speaking of those terms that I've just used, those are what we call task words. And you will be familiar with them, or you should be familiar with them, because they will be in the exam. Now, you have to know what each one of those task words mean. For example, students, when we talk about describe, we mean that you need to say what something is like. Give its relevant qualities. Depending on the nature of the task, descriptions may need to be brief or they may need to be very detailed. That is what you do when you describe. What about discuss? When you discuss, you provide details about and evidence for or against two or more different views or ideas, often with reference to a statement in the title. Discussion often includes explaining which views or ideas seem stronger. That is what a discussion is all about. You cannot write a single line. You cannot write just 2 or 3 lines and say you are discussing. No, use all of the lines that are provided for you in the exam. Outline. What does that mean? Outline means that you provide the main points or ideas normally without going into too much detail. So when you're outlining, you're doing a little bit more than stating, you're providing just a few details. And as it relates to stating, you express something briefly and very clearly. As it relates, students, to identify, you must show that you have recognized one or more key or significant piece of evidence, thing, idea, problem, fact, theory, or example. When you identify, you show that you are familiar with the content. Now, students, as it relates to identify, you must show that you have recognized one or more key or significant piece of evidence, thing, idea, problem, fact, theory, or example. When you identify, you show that you are familiar with the content. As it relates to explain, you tell how things work or how they came to be the way they are, including perhaps some need to describe and to analyze. You have a concept, you look at the different components of it, the different aspects of it, you make it clear to the readers. And last but not least, you may be tasked with justifying. Yes, when you justify, you express valid reasons for accepting a particular interpretation or conclusion, probably including the need to argue a case. When you justify, you tell us why you believe this is to be so. When you justify, you tell us why the implementation, why the action that you suggested is likely to be very successful. So there you have it, class. These are some of the terms that you should be familiar with. Now that we've identified the different task words, let us now look at a CSEC past question for paper 2. We have a scenario, a conversation between Josh and Stan. Josh says, I have not voted for a parliamentary representative for my area for the last 3 elections. Stan says, I don't bother to vote either. The floating voter always decides the outcome of the elections. So here we have Josh saying, I don't vote for a parliamentary representative for my area for the last 3 elections. And Stan is saying, I don't bother to vote either. The floating voter always decides the outcome of the elections. The first question, What does the term floating voter in the dialogue mean? What does the term floating voter in the dialogue mean? Have you ever heard about a floating voter? Did you say that a floating voter is one who has not decided which way to vote in an election, or one who does not consistently vote for the same political party? Yes, that is correct. A floating voter is one that is not an ardent supporter of any one political party. A floating voter usually makes a last-minute decision, or a floating voter is one that takes his or her time before deciding who really to vote for. So there you have it, class. A floating voter is someone who has not decided which way to vote in an election, someone who is indecisive. Can you think, students, of another term for a floating voter? Yes, a swing voter. A swing voter and a floating voter, they're the same thing. Swing voter, not sure who to vote for. Now, we're going to question 2 as it relates to this very same dialogue. So we had Josh who said that he did not vote for a parliamentary representative for his area in the last 3 elections. Stan says, I don't bother to vote either. The floating voter always decides the outcome of the elections. Question 2. State the term used to describe the voter behavior shown by the 2 speakers in the dialogue above. Now, class, there's a political term that is used to describe the behavior that is demonstrated by both Josh and Stan. Do you know what that term is? Yes, it is voter apathy. Voter apathy. Voter apathy means that these voters are indifferent. They just don't care very much about the outcome of the elections. And they haven't really made a strong attempt to go out and vote. So if you are suffering from voter apathy, you're indifferent to the election period, and you may not be very encouraged or enthusiastic to go out and vote. Now, as it relates to question 3, class, give 2 reasons why some registered voters may behave in a way similar to the speakers engaged in the dialogue. Can you think of two reasons why some registered voters may decide that on elections day, they're going to stay home, they're going to stay in bed, they're not going to go out and vote? What are two reasons why someone may choose not to go to the polls to vote on elections day? All right, let's look at some of the responses that I have. I believe that some registered voters may behave in a similar manner to the speakers because they have lost confidence in governance. They may not believe that the government actually addresses the issues they may be facing. They believe that it doesn't matter who is in power, the same outcome will happen. Their needs will not be met, their voices will not be heard, so they feel very discouraged about the entire process and may choose not to go and vote. They may say something to the effect of, well, it doesn't matter which party is in power, I still don't benefit from it. So that could be one of the reasons why some registered voters may behave in a similar way to the speakers engaged in the dialogue. Can you think of any other reason why voters may stay away? Well, let's look at the scenario again. Do you notice that Josh says he has not voted for a parliamentary representative for his area? What do you think that implies? Yes, it tells us that Josh lives in a country, in a territory that uses the first past the post electoral system. And in such a system, voters may believe that their vote doesn't count if they were to vote for a politician who does not have a majority support in their constituency. These votes are usually considered wasted and may discourage supporters from voting. Students, very important for us to understand what first past the post is. It's an electoral system whereby a country is divided into different electoral districts, or what we call constituencies. And a political party that wins the most constituencies would win the most seats in parliament and get to form the government. So you are electing your representatives directly. If Party A and Party B are contesting the elections in a particular constituency and Party A gets 10 votes, Party B just needs 11 votes in order to win that constituency and secure that seat in parliament. So just one extra vote that party needs, Party B would need. And in such a situation, voters may feel very discouraged that their votes are not counted or don't matter very much, because if you're not supporting a politician that has a majority support in your constituency, you might be very discouraged because you think your votes do not count. Because all that party needs is one more vote than the other party to win that constituency. And this situation could also be considered as a disadvantage of first past the post. Now let's look at another question as it relates to what we are speaking of. State one problem that may arise when newly registered voters are not educated about the process of voting in an elections. All of you that are in fifth form, fourth form currently, I'm sure by the next election cycle, you will be eligible to vote. You'll be considered as a newly registered voter. Can you think of one problem that may arise if you're not educated about the process of voting in an election? What are some possible issues that may happen if you're not sure what to do? Well, I can think of one problem specifically that may arise. There are many, but the one that comes to mind is a spoiled ballot. Yes, for example, this can happen if the voter puts the X outside of the designated box next to the candidate's name and not in the box as required. So you have to know, where do you put that X? You don't put a star, you don't put a circle, you put an X. And if you're not familiar with the instructions, with the process, you may do the wrong thing. And that will result in a spoiled ballot. In other words, your vote will not count. So it's very important that we are well familiar with the processes of voting in an election. All right, students, let's move on to our next question. Suggest giving full details. Let me say that again. Suggest giving full details. 3 strategies which the youth arm of a political party may use to encourage young persons to vote. And after you've done that, you need to explain fully why each strategy suggested is likely to be successful. In other words, you must justify. You must let us know why the strategies you've selected will be successful. But first, you must give full details of those strategies. And these are strategies that relate to the youth arm of a political party, what they could use to encourage young persons to vote. Sometimes many young people are discouraged from voting. So if you are a political party and you have a youth arm, what are some strategies you may employ to ensure that young people go out and vote? How can we get them out to vote? All right, one of the strategies I can think of is that the youth arm of a political party may encourage young persons to vote by educating them on aspects of the party's manifesto that aims to benefit them directly. These include what plans the party has for youth employment, tertiary education, inclusive of scholarship availability, and the development of sports. In other words, students, the youth, the young persons who are going to be voting at the elections, they will be concerned with issues that affect them directly. So it's very important that the youth arm of a political party speaks about issues that the youths are very much concerned about. For example, they want to know what jobs would be available for them when they leave their tertiary institution. They want to know if tertiary education is going to become more affordable, if there's going to be more scholarships for young people. They want to know what recreational activities are there for young people. Is there going to be a push for the development of sports? So the party's manifesto, its official document that highlights the plans that the political party has and hopes to implement if it gets into power, must certainly be discussed amongst young people and must have plans and programs that speak specifically to the human development of the youth. So yes, educating young people on the party's manifesto would surely be a very important strategy that the youth arm of a political party may use to encourage young persons to vote. Now, that's just one strategy. We have to justify that strategy. And I'm going to read a paragraph that I've written on why this strategy is going to be very successful. Here goes. This strategy is likely to be successful since many young people are often of the opinion that voting in an election does nothing for them. Usually, other issues affecting other demographic groups, such as seniors and middle-aged adults, get the national spotlight. These may include increasing the old age pension, the provision of affordable house lots for families, etc. As such, many first-time voters may be disinclined to vote. Therefore, the youth arm of a political party can focus more on the opportunities that young people would be interested in hearing about. And there you have it, class. I have adequately explained fully why such a strategy is likely to be successful. We have to ensure that we provide sufficient details so that we get the maximum marks allocated for such a question. Now let us think of another strategy that the youth arm of a political party can implement. Second strategy. The youth arm of a political party can speak to the youthful population directly by hosting live sessions via social media or conduct campaigns in public spaces where young people tend to frequent. This would provide an opportunity for the party to hear the concerns of the young people and subsequently address those. What do you think about this strategy, students? Yes, students, this strategy is likely to be successful because it gives the politicians an opportunity to reach out to the youthful population directly. And how could they do so in a very efficient manner? Yes, social media. Social media is where we'll find a lot of young people, including yourselves. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that is where young people spend a lot of time. Also, they can have campaigns in public spaces where young people tend to frequent. For example, a recreational facility or even a mall where young people go and hang out with their friends. They could have a booth there as well. So this is a strategy that would certainly get the youthful population engaged with the political parties in a very direct manner. Now let us justify why this strategy will certainly work. Here goes. This strategy would work since it would provide young people with opportunities to have their voices heard. Too often, political parties speak to young voters without actually engaging in meaningful discussions with them. As such, a live question and answer segment online or one facilitated in a public space may help to dispel misconceptions voters have about the political party, and as such may become encouraged to vote for the party. More so, by connecting with young voters where they are, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc., the party would appear to be aware of young people's social habits and interests, which would definitely help it to score some political points. And that, students, is an example of how we justify why the strategy will work or why it should work. When you have young people on social media platforms and it gives them an opportunity to interact directly with politicians, they feel as if their voices are being heard. They feel as if the politicians understand youthful issues because they make the effort to meet them where they are. So there we have it, a second strategy with a justification for it as well. And now we have one more strategy that we will talk about, one more strategy as it relates to what a youthful population can. All right, students, I hope that you are still with me and you're learning and you're already thinking about how you will formulate your own responses in the exam. Now we're going to look at our last strategy, strategy 3. What else could a political party do to ensure that it reaches out to the young voters? What else could it do to encourage young persons to vote? Let's see what I have here. I believe that the youth arm of a political party may host a free Get Out the Vote concert targeting young people by enlisting performances from local influential artists as well as speeches from young party candidates. A catchy campaign song sung by a local star at the event could also help sway the vote. Yes, that's what I believe, students. I believe that if you have a concert that targets young people and it's very entertaining, but it also sends a political message that they should go out and vote, then more than likely the youth will be influenced to do exactly that, to go out and vote. But let us formulate our response in paragraph form. How do we justify that the youth will go to this concert and they will benefit from it and they will learn more about the political party and they'll be more inclined to go and vote? Here we go. It is no secret that young people love a spectacle. As such, any opportunity to persuade, educate, and entertain them all at the same time should be welcomed. Having influential voices in entertainment to endorse the party could definitely persuade youths to vote for the party, especially if they often try to emulate these celebrities. More so, such an event could feature speeches from the more youthful members who are candidates for the party. In this way, young voters may feel represented. And there you have it, students, the third justification of why having celebrities endorse a political party and are present at a concert and may help to create and sing a catchy campaign song really does the job, because young people are persuaded by it. They consider these celebrities to be role models, they emulate them, and they listen to what they have to say. So this will certainly be a very effective strategy. And that brings us, students, to the end of this question that has multiple parts. I certainly hope that you would have learned something new and that you now have a better understanding of what it means to suggest different strategies, to give full details, while also justifying why each strategy would be successful. Until next time,